Alright, this is going to be a very interesting lesson here. What we're going to be doing is using MEL, which is Maya's embedded language, it's Maya's scripting language, to create a script that's going to help simplify the process of taking our textured geometry from Maya over into Unreal Ed. Now you already know that Uneditor, a plugin that comes with the Maya PLE, is available, but we're going to use it, but we're going to kind of simplify the front end of, kind of getting everything ready to go. Does that make sense, Logan?
Sounds good.
Okay. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, I mean, it would kind of be nice to have a somewhat more of a export selected system in place.
Exactly, as opposed to having to go through a bunch of steps. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and take just a second and let's remind our viewers what those steps were just in general. First of all, once you've got your geometry modeled, here we are with our high-tech fancy cube again, and once you've got the texturing done and everything and you're ready for the exporting phase, then if you remember what you needed to do was select your geometry, come up to create, come down to sets, and actually create a set. And I'm not going to do all of this, but just a quick reminder. We'll call it my cube. Then once you've got your set created, then what you needed to do was come up and open up the outliner, select your set, open up the attribute editor, and then inside of extra attributes, remember you needed to come up here and you needed to add attributes. We needed package, we needed group, we needed scale. Then we had to set those values. And once that was done, then it was a matter of simply coming down here to the command line and from the command line typing in uneditor space mesh space and the name of your static mesh, or which will actually be your set. And then it would export over into Unreal Ed.
Right, I mean, it's basically we had to jump around to different places to get to all this stuff.
Yeah, especially if any of you guys out there are beginners, this is not going to be a lesson that's for the faint of heart. But at the same time, once you're done with this lesson, if you're able to go through it without any problem and create this script, what you're going to do is you're going to simplify this problem of having to jump around all over the place in Maya. You're going to simplify it greatly, wouldn't you say, Logan?
Most definitely.
Actually, let's go ahead and show them what we mean by simplifying. Let's go ahead and close our attribute editor, and I'm just going to hit delete with the set selected so it's now gone. We can go ahead and close that down. We can simply select our geometry here. I've already got an icon up here available on my shelf that is quick access into our little script, and this is what we're going to create. This little dialog right here. Static mesh export, and it's looking for the mesh name, the package you want to export it to, any group if you've got a group that you want to put it into, and scale. And it's actually pretty nice too. Watch this. If I deselect my cube, come over here and let's go ahead and actually use this. Let's say we're going to call this my cube and package. We'll do cubes again. Wait a minute. I know. This is what happens when you record at 2 o'clock in the morning. Let's say our mesh name is my cube. The package is going to be, we'll do my level, since we always stick it in my level. The group's going to be cubes. And we're going to do a scale of 16 again, so this ends up being a 256 by 256 by 256 cube. Now, nothing is selected. I hit export, and it's somewhat user error proofed, if you will. Jumps up and says, error in selection. Well, okay, we'll confirm that. We'll come over here. We'll play your game. We'll select our geometry. So now our little application is going to know what geometry it is that we want to export. If we have multiple objects in the selection, let's create a sphere real quick. And I'll hit W to grab my move tool and move this over here. And I'll select both of these objects and come down here and hit export. Again, there's an error in selection. Why is there an error in selection now, Logan? I've got something selected.
Because it looks like the little mesh exporter is trying to find one object to export.
That's right, because we're looking for one polygonal object to export. Polygonal. You know what? I was just thinking about that. That would be another thing we could check for to make sure it wasn't a polygon object. But there's a lot of room for growth inside the script. I mean, right now it does the basic functionality. So let's go ahead and select this, delete it. All right, now, go ahead and grab this guy here. Now, my cube, my level, all that stuff's good. We're happy. Let's hit export. Oh, wow, check it out. The little script is now being nice. Did you remember to triangulate? Well, in this particular case, yes, I did. Look at that. Oh, I hit yes. Suddenly, I'm in Unreal Ed automatically. And if I come down, there's my level, and it's already all set up, done.
Oh, that's not bad.
Is that pretty simple?
So it's basically, it's only what you need. It's just the cube and the settings. And after that, it's just a matter of a button, and it's in Unreal.
You got it. Okay, so now I guess we need to take a look at the code real fast, and then delete the code and start building it fresh.
Sounds good.
Sound good and challenging? I love challenging. All right, let's go ahead and take this guy with him, select it, come up here, edit, delete, go ahead and get rid of them. So my level is indeed gone. So later on, if things work nice and good for us, it'll automatically create all that stuff for us without a problem. So now let's go ahead and switch back over, and we'll go back over into the Maya PLE. And at this point, I will go ahead and point out that if I come up here to Window, come down to Outliner, look at this. My cube exists now. The set actually exists. So if we come in here, delete that out just to kind of clear things out so that we don't have any problems in a minute. Now, let's go ahead and Alt-Tab over to Notepad. We're going to use Notepad to actually write the script. Nice, clear, easy to see once this is compressed down so you guys won't have any problem. And then we'll just simply copy and paste this over in the script editor, and then we'll drag it up to our shelf. We, of course, could save it out as a .mel file if we wanted to, but we're going to make things simpler than that. Now, this right here is the actual script that we're going to write. That's not that bad, is it, Logan?
To me, it looks really interesting.
It is interesting. This is very simple stuff. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. Watch this. Ready? Control A to select everything. Delete. Is that good enough?
Yay, now it's a lot simpler.
File, save as, and we'll call this UT Maya 3. Save. There you go. So we don't accidentally overwrite anything we've already done in the past in case we suddenly forget how to do this. I doubt that's going to happen. All right, so while this is not a lecture about how to use MEL, I will try to keep it relatively simple and explain everything that I'm doing. So we're going to start out. I'm going to throw a set of comments in there. I will go ahead and say that MEL is a case-sensitive language. It's very similar to C, using the same, let's see, what's the word I'm looking for? Same syntax, same formatting, okay? And, I mean, it respects white space. If statements are the same, for statements are the same. In fact, for those that are familiar with Unreal Script, it's even pretty much
right. I mean, the syntax is pretty much the same.
Exactly. So for those of you guys with some scripting out there, this is going to be really cool. The only thing that you're going to see that's going to really be different here is the fact that we're going to start using commands that are specific to Maya itself. Now, right now, I'm starting out with 2 forward slashes. And, Logan, what would that mean?
That would be a comment.
A comment. What's a comment, Logan?
Just it's basically a reminder for you. It's something that the interpreter ignores when it goes to read the code.
You got it. And he's saying interpreter because, of course, MEL is an interpreted language by Maya itself. It is not something that we compile. So let's go ahead and put our little comment in here, which is going to be declare my variables. So we're going to go ahead and add a few variables in. I'm going to start out with a string. Yeah, it's always fun to type and talk at the same time. This is going to be a tough little lesson right here. All right, so string is going to be the variable type. A variable is nothing more than a location in memory that's going to store some data that you can then turn around and reuse again later inside your program. The data name is going to be, or the variable name is going to be $MyWindow. All variables inside of MEL always begin with a dollar symbol. Equals. So what we're doing now is not only a declaration, meaning declaring the variable, but we're also going to initialize it as well to something. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set the name up inside double quotes because it's a string. We're going to call it export assist for the export assistant. Okay? Now, next line. Another string, dollar, main layout equals C layout. We're going to be using layouts to house our controls inside the user interface that we're going to create. And in this particular case, what I'm doing is I'm storing the name of the main layout so that at any time I need to jump all the way back up to the main layout, I can simply say, basically go to $main layout, and it's going to know where to go to. Does that make sense, Logan?
So you're basically setting a placeholder at the main layout so later when you need to go back to it, you already know where it is. So it's kind of like a bookmark in a sense.
Exactly. And I don't have to do this. I'm just doing this right now just to demonstrate variables. Plus, if I want to change the name for whatever reason, I just need to simply come to the top of my code and I'm ready to go. All right, now, anytime that you're going to create a user interface, the very first thing you need to do is check to see if the window already exists. In other words, when you create a window, matter of fact, if we jump back over here into Maya real quick, when we create this window is seen as an object as far as Maya is concerned at that moment. And let's say I try to create this window a second time around. If I did not check for it first and destroy the one that's currently running, if I didn't do that, basically what's going to happen is it's going to say, hey, no, error. basically there's no unique name, or the names are the same, so that's not allowed. We have to have a unique name. That's what I meant to say there. So it's just going to error on you, and it's going to stop. So what we need to do is have our code check to see if that window name exists, or that object name exists. And if that object name does indeed exist, we're simply going to delete it. Does that make sense?
Okay, so basically you can't just create a window over a window. You have to check yourself. And
you can't create a window over a window if their names are the same. That
okay.
I can't do.
So we're going to be assigning a name to this window and not just letting it automatically name it.
Right. Absolutely. So let's go ahead now, come back over. And to do this, what we need to do, first of all, again, I'm going to put comments in here. Just simply say, check to see if the window exists. And this is just a matter of if. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say window-ex. -ex is a flag. Window is a command. Space $my_window, because as Logan said a minute ago, $my_window is a placeholder that holds the name of the window. So this is actually going to be the object, if you want to look at it that way. It's actually going to be the object's name, the window's name. Okay. Now, window is a command, and I want this command to return something back. So since I want to execute the command and have it return something back inside of MEL, what I need to do is put this inside of accent marks like such. Okay. And this will allow that to happen. The accent mark I'm talking about is the one above your tab key on the left side of your keyboard. It's also sharing the same key as the tilde. Okay, so that's our accent marks. So if this evaluates to true, that means that $my_window does indeed exist. Then what we need to do is simply, let's not go that far over, is delete UI, and both U and I are capitalized, $my_window. And we'll use a semicolon at the end to terminate it. We don't need to use semicolons at the end of the if statement because it knows there's going to be a code that's going to following that immediately, and it belongs to the if itself. Up here, of course, these two variable declaration initialization lines do indeed have semicolons at the end. So if the window exists, kill it. That's pretty simple, right, Logan?
Most definitely.
All right, so now what we need to do is now we know it's safe to create a window. So we'll go ahead and throw some comments here as well. So create a window. So here we go. Watch how hard this is. We'll use the command window again. So you see that the command window can take on multiple personalities. We can use a flag to see if it exists, or we can use various flags to specify things such as WH, which would be width and height, 169 pixels across by 165 pixels up and down. Dash MXB. So is this going to have a maximize and minimize button? Nope. So we're going to set it to false. Space dash sizeable. So is this going to be sizable? Nope. So I'm saying false. Title. What's going to be the title at the top? Well, you guys saw that I called it static mesh export. Okay. And finally, the very last thing you do with an ELF command. An ELF command is basically a type of command that deals with user interfaces inside of MEL. Extended Layer Framework, for any of you guys that may be wondering what it stands for, is we have to give it the name at the end. So, $my_window. So this is where this actual command, when the window's created, this is where the window's going to pick up its name from. Logan, good?
Okay, makes sense.
Okay. So now that we've created a window, now you can't just start putting controls in a window. Controls are things like buttons, text fields, float fields, sliders, etc., things that a user will interact with. Controls have to go into layouts. Layouts kind of act like invisible grids that will allow you to lay out the controls how you need them to be laid out. Okay, it's almost kind of, in a very roundabout way, almost like HTML work. You know what I'm talking about, Logan?
Or it's kind of like something that allows you to create more controls and keep them organized.
Keep them organized. When I say HTML, let me go back to that for a second. It's kind of like working with tables in HTML. That's what I meant to say. How you could have something stacked in a column, or you can have something start going across.
All right, that makes sense. The table lets you keep track of where all the controls you put in it are placed.
Exactly. So using that, so we'll go ahead and say another comment, and we'll go ahead and tell it to add layouts and controls, and that's good enough. We'll go ahead and now, and first thing we're going to do is a frame layout, and we're going to set its label to nothing. What this frame layout is going to do is it's going to give us the nice indented look. In fact, if I jump back over here into the Maya PLE for a minute, you can see we have this indentation running all the way around. That frame layout is going to give us that. By taking the label and setting it blank, it gets rid of having a label right up here in the corner. So let's go ahead now and jump back over into Notepad. So now inside this, we're going to have a column layout. Reason we're now putting a column layout is because a frame layout can only hold one child. So we'll put a column layout in the frame layout, and a column layout can hold as many children as you want to put in it. And it's going to place those children in a vertical fashion. So in other words, we put one thing in, the next thing's going to be placed right under, hence the name column layout. So, and if you think about it, every UI that you've ever seen before can always have a column layout as the base. Because in the end, even if you see things running across, in the end, everything goes down, though, from top to bottom. Does that make sense?
Right. Eventually, something is below something else.
You got it. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and tell it column layout, and we'll go ahead and give this guy a name in case we need to return back to him. And this is where I'm going to use the variable that I set above, main layout. All right. So now with that set, let's go ahead and very first thing I want to do is use a row column layout so that I can put two things side by side. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Coming back over here. You can see the general feel of the column layout because you've got stuff that's going straight down, okay? But inside the column layout, all I'm going to do is put a row column layout, and I'm going to tell it that it's only going to have two columns. And once it hits the end of two columns, it'll wrap. So what's going to happen is we're going to start our focus off right here, and inside the row column layout, in the first column, I'll put text, and then it'll automatically move over to the second column. In the second column, I'm going to put a text field. It'll drop this down, and then internally, inside that row column layout, it's going to automatically jump down here because we're only allowed to go two columns across because, again, it's something I'm going to specify. So when we come down here, again, I'll put in text. Then it's going to jump over here. I'll put this in. It'll wrap around here, and it's just going to continue doing that. So with that, let's go ahead and jump back over into our script, and I'll just go ahead and come on over a few. And again, row, column, layout. And I'm going to specify number of columns, -NC. Again, it's a flag, and I'm going to send it some data. Number of column is going to be 2. And then I'm going to come in here and say dash column width, -CW is column width of column number 1 is going to be locked to 55 pixels. Semicolon to terminate that. And on the next line now, what I want to do is simply come in here and say text dash label is going to be mesh name colon just like such. Okay. Now we want to come down here to the next thing and say text field and dash text. And the text that we're going to put in there is going to be change me to remind. Well, we could, you know what we could do? Well, yeah, we'll just leave it as change me, reminding them that they need to change this to match whatever they called their set, or in the end, what's going to be the name of their static mesh, hence mesh name. So change me. And then let's go ahead and close that. And since we're going to need to query this, we need to give it a name that we know that we're going to use to get back to. So we'll call this T for text, T mesh name, and put a semicolon there. And looking at this point, really, I'm just going to jump down a couple and type in show window, put a semicolon there, just so that we can test out this little bit of a program that we have so far. Sound good?
Okay, sounds good.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and highlight the whole thing and hit Control-C to copy it. Alt-Tab back over into the Maya PLE. Let's go ahead and close this down. And this is how it works. I'm going to come down over into the lower right-hand corner, open up my script editor. Let's go ahead and change the size of that there. Simply hit Control-V to paste this down here. And now I'm going to hit the Enter key on my numeric keypad on the far right to execute. And look what we've got so far. We've got our window with the width and height specified. The title of it is Static Mesh Export. We do not have a minimize and a maximize button. It is not sizable if I move my mouse over one of the borders. And the mesh name is set to change me. Simple enough?
Yep.
All right. So now let's go ahead and jump back over. And we can go ahead and keep on heading down, add a few more things in here. Let's see, what else can we add? Since this thing is just going to continue to wrap around, I can get lazy and just copy this right here and paste the next one. The next one's going to be what?
Let's see, probably package.
There you go. Package is right. So package. And as for what's here, we can type in my package, or since we're pretty big on doing my level, let's just do my level.
So just let it default to my level. Sounds
yeah,
good.
Sounds good to me. Makes more sense. And let's just go ahead and come in here and call this one T package. Go and jump down. Let's paste again. This time around, let's go ahead and do this one as group. Let's come down one. And as for text, we're not going to put any text inside this one. We're just going to leave the group blank. But we are going to name this T group so we can get back to it to read it. And let's see. And that's good. Let's just see what we got so far. So highlight it all with Control-A, Control-C to copy. Alt-Tab over to My PLE. Let's leave this window open. What I did is I Control-A, Control-V, just select everything and paste over it. Now I'm going to hit the Enter key on the numeric pad again. And look at that. Killed the old window, created the new window, and now we've got 3 different things in there. All right, we're progressing. And this guy now defaults to change me. This guy now defaults to my level, and group is left empty. So now what I want to do is go in there and add a little, let's say, well, actually we need to add scale, and then let's add a separator line that's going to run all the way across, and we can add a button. I would have added, if I would have been thinking, I would have gone ahead and added in the scale real quick right now. But that's all right. So we'll go ahead and undo that. We don't want to do that there. Let's come back over here and highlight these two and copy, paste. And now we're going to call this guy scale. And instead of using a text field, which allows alphanumeric, what we're going to do is we are going to use a float field. And the float field is going to start out with a precision-PRE. And precision is going to be 0 because I'm not going to set this up where you can use a scale with any decimals in there. So precision of 0 won't let you use decimals. If you guys want to have your scale set up so you can do like 16.5 or 24.5 or whatever, go ahead and set like a precision of 1. If you need more decimal places, increase the number. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do -V or -value, and I'm going to go ahead and set it to 1. I hate when I add the attribute with the scale being auto set to 0, and I always forget when I'm doing add attribute because I'm doing them real quickly back over in the My PLE going the long way around. I always forget to set it, default it to 1, so scale comes in at 0. This way, it's always going to be a value of 1 to start out with. In fact, Logan, again, simplifying things since we are doing all of these lectures based on 16, we can go ahead and jump right in there with it being 16 as well.
Sounds good.
All right. And then finally, so that we can get over here to name quickly, we're going to come in here and we'll name this guy F for float. F scale. Okay, that just gives us a way to address him later on. All right, so with those in place, next thing what I want to do is go ahead and set parent back up because remember right now I'm inside a row column layout. So what I'm doing is I'm just wrapping around one column, the next column, then wrap around up underneath the first column, and I just keep doing that. Now what I want to do is step back up to the column layout, which is the parent layout above row column layout, and now start putting stuff back into there. So to do that, all I need to do is simply tell it to set parent, and I could do just simply ... or I could say $main layout, jump all the way back up. Now what I want to do is come in here. So now we're working up underneath at the row column layout, so that would be right about there. And with this guy, let's go ahead and do a separator. And we're going to set the style to none. And then let's come in here and do another separator with a width of 165. And I'll show you what I'm doing in just a second. And let's do another separator. Could have just copied the one from above. Style of none again. The separators with a style of none just basically give me a 1 pixel space push down, that's all. And then a separator with a width of 165 is going to give me an embedded or an embossed inward line that runs all the way across. And then another, or beveled in line, and then another separator with a style set of none is going to give me another push 1 line down. All right, so now, next thing I want to do, let's put a button down here. So we'll just simply come across over here and tell it button. That's the command for it. We're going to go ahead and specify that the width of the button is going to be 155 units across. That it's going to have a label that says export. That makes sense. And when it's pressed, the command that's going to be triggered is going to be export to Maya. I could have called this anything that I wanted to, but anyways, we're just going to do this thing as export to Maya. That's going to be a procedure name that kind of makes sense. Again, it could have been any procedure name we wanted to. We'll talk more about procedures in just a minute, just kind of getting this set up. So now let's go ahead and do another quick Control-A, Control-C to copy it. Now I'm going to Alt-Tab over to the My PLE, Control-A, Control-V to paste it, and execute. What do you think, Logan?
Looks pretty good.
So now we've got all of our text, all of the text fields. We've got a 1-pixel push, then we have a separator, then we have another 1-pixel push, and then we have our button that's going nice and neatly across from side to side.
So basically, when you got down there to the separators and that button, what you needed, the reason that you needed to jump out where you did that set parent,
right,
was because before you were doing, you had you had two things before you would jump down to another level.
That's right. So it was dink, dink, then it jumped down. Dink, dink, jump down. Because I specified number of columns. In fact, let's just, while you're talking about it, let's go back. Because I specified number of columns is 2.
Not only that, you specified the first column's width to 55. So
That's
if you
right.
hadn't done that, then that button would have been limited to like 55 of the first column.
Actually, watch this. Yeah, that's correct. This is what would have happened. Column 1, column 2, column 1, column 2, column 1, column 2, column 1, column 2. If I would not have set parent, this would have gone in column 1. This guy would have tried to have been squeezed into column 2. This guy would have gone into column 1. He would have been forced into column 2.
So the button would have been missing 55 pixels to the left.
You got it. So, with that being the case, now, let's go ahead. We've got our UI pretty much set up. We're ready to go ahead and start programming in the functionality of it at this point. And we already have it set up to the fact that when someone presses the button right now that says export, it's going to call this procedure. A procedure is a simple way for us to package some code and then call upon it easily by just simply calling out the name. Once we call upon it, that code will then be executed. Will run at that point in time. So we're going to come down here, and to declare a procedure, we got to do it just like we declare our variables. It's very simple. First, let's start out with, again, some comment lines. So procedures, and this one is going to be proc. This is how we declare it. Export to Maya. Open and close, and it doesn't have to be spaced. It can be right up against it. Doesn't matter. Basically, for those of you guys out there that are familiar with programming, this, of course, is where we can take arguments in if we want to pass data into it. Now let's come down here, and we're going to do an open curly brace, jump down a few lines, and a closing curly brace. Okay? Everything's going to be blocked inside these two braces right here that's going to belong to this procedure. Simple enough?
Okay, so anything in there belongs to procedure export to Maya.
You got it. So now, inside here, let's go ahead. Let's do something really simple to start with. Let's do a confirm dialog, and let's just give it a message and say, you hit the button, like such. Okay? Just a quick way to verify that indeed we are calling this procedure. So, everything okay, Logan?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Control A, Control C. I'll tab back over. Control A, Control V. There it is. Export. You hit the button. You hit that button. Okay, good. So, hit the button again. All right, so it's indeed working. Good. So now, let's go ahead and come back in here and let's start putting some real stuff in. I'll just push that down because I'll end up using confirm dialog in a minute. As a matter of fact, let's just go ahead and add some extra spaces in here so that we'll push this up a little bit higher. So, first thing we're going to do is create some variables. So now that you guys have seen me use comments over and over and over, I'm going to start backing off on the comments heavily because you get the idea. We're going to make a variable that is a string type. $obj selected, and it is an array. All right, so what this is going to do is this is going to create a special type of string variable that is divided up into compartments. This is an array, and we're basically going to set that variable to hold the names of all the objects that are currently selected in the scene. Because after all, we got to check and make sure that the user only has one thing selected. We don't want to process this if we've got multiple things selected, because then perhaps they forgot to combine everything. And we don't want to process this if they have nothing selected. So what we need to do is go ahead and initialize this with everything that's selected in the scene. It is very easy. We'll simply say that that is equal to ls for list dash SL for selected. But since this is a command that needs to return information back, just like we saw up here with the window, we need to make sure that it is in accent marks. And we'll go ahead and terminate with a semicolon. All right, Logan?
Looks good.
Okay. Next line, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make another string. This one's going to be our mesh name. And we are going to extract the data that is in tmesh name. Here's tmesh name right here that we created earlier. So the way we do this is text field. Notice how we're using the exact same command that we used up here. Except this time around, text field is going to be put in a query mode. And we're going to query the text and we got to tell it which text field we're querying. It's T mesh name. Now, again, since this is a command that's going to return data back, accent mark, terminate.
So basically what you're doing there is the command text field can be not only used to create text fields, but to actually find the values in already created text fields.
Absolutely. Cool stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's a little weird when you first think about it, but it's kind of cool once you get used to it.
Absolutely. So now let's just go ahead and copy this and paste a couple of times. And let's come up here and say, all right, the next thing we want to grab is, actually, yeah, we'll go all the way over. We're going to call this guy S package. Guess I could have called the one above it S mesh name, but that's all right. And we'll call this one here S group. And we're going to be querying, in this case right here, T group. This one up here is going to be T package. Simple enough. Now what we want to do is another one. Let's do another Control V. This time around, instead of it being a string, it's going to be a float. Instead of it being called mesh name, we're going to call it F scale. And instead of text field, we're going to use a float field, just like we used right here. Okay, and we're going to query, but instead of text, what we're going to do is we're going to query the value. This time I'll type all of value out. Could have used just -v. And the name of the guy we're querying is F scale. All right? How are we doing, Logan?
Okay, so it looks like you can't use variables that are outside this procedure. I noticed you were declaring more variables as soon as you got inside it.
Absolutely. Everything that is inside this procedure, the scope is limited. We can't see everything that's going on out here. Now, of course, I can talk to objects that exist. These different controls basically act as just a regular object that's currently loaded inside of memory as far as Maya is concerned. So I can address the object no matter where I am. But variables that I define, these variables stay private to what's going on inside this procedure. They can't be seen outside. And the variables that exist out here, they can't be seen in here either. If I wanted these guys to see them, I'd have to pass them through or make them global.
So basically the text field or float field command can see any created text or float field. It's just we're using those to read those into variables that exist specifically in this procedure.
That's right. And then we're going to turn around and use these variables which are going to contain that information.
Sounds good.
All right. So let's go ahead now. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of, I guess you could say, dummy checking. Let's make sure that there's only one thing selected. So I'll go ahead and move over a couple and say if. And we're going to use a command called size. What size will do is check the size of an array to see how many elements are actually in it. So $obj selected. If it's not equal to 1, this means we have a problem. So I'll go ahead and tab over, or space over a couple. And let's just go ahead and jump inside here and say what that problem is. We're going to, in fact, this will give us a place to use that confirm dialog. So we'll say confirm dialog, and we'll give it a title. And we'll say that the title is selection, selection error. Yeah. Space over. And message is going to be error in selection. Something descriptive for our user. Good enough. Go ahead and space over a couple. Now, of course, I don't have to use the blocking braces right now because there's just one thing that goes along if this indeed is true. But I'm just doing this for the sake of beginners out there. That's all. Now we're going to say else. So if this does not equal true, then we're going to come down and do this next thing, which is basically everything else in the program. So let's go ahead and push all this down a little bit like such. And I always like going in there and closing off my braces so that I don't accidentally forget to do that later on. So now let's go ahead and throw some comments in here. I'm just going to come in and say comments. Did the user triangulate? Okay. So now I'm going to do another confirm dialog box, but this time I want to set it up so that it's going to do a yes/no type thing, and then we're going to check to see what the user actually selected. So to do this, we're just going to come over here and we're going to make a string to hold the result. In fact, we'll actually call the variable name result, and we're going to say it's going to be equal to, I'll go ahead and put the accent mark because we're going to be returning something back from the command, confirm dialog. The title is going to be confirm because we're looking for them to confirm. The message is going to be did you Triangulate. Did you triangulate? Okay. And I'm not going to put a semicolon. I'm just going to hit enter, tab over a few times. This will basically be as though the line is continuing on. Okay?
Right, because we don't have an ending accent mark yet.
Ending accent mark, and we don't have a terminator at the end.
Right.
All right, so now I'm going to say there's going to be a button that is going to be labeled yes. There's going to be another button that's going to be labeled no. The default button is going to be yes. And I'm just trying to keep this neat so it's relatively all on screen. That's why I'm using the enter here. Then the cancel button will be no. And the dismiss string for this will be no. So the bottom line is, let's go ahead and put our accent mark in there. The bottom line is we're looking for a yes or a no to simply get put over here.
Okay, so on that first confirm dialog, if it got to the point where it said selection error, that was it. It just wasn't going to continue.
That's
but
right.
In this case, we can continue different ways depending on what button the user hits.
Absolutely. And so the first thing once we continue on is we're going to go ahead and check with them, do we need to triangulate this thing or have you remembered to? So we can simply come in here and say, if they happen to say, let's just go ahead and drop over here and say another if they say no. So to do that, we'll just come in here, parentheses, $result. If it's equals, I got to use double equals. That's an equality test here. Quote, no. All right, so if that indeed is the case, then what we're going to do is we're going to set up another string, $result. And let's go ahead and just get lazy this time around. Let's just come all the way up here and copy all this. Come down here, highlight that, and place it. I'll move those on over, and we can just jump those on over to keep them nice and neat. The reason I'm doing this, you'll see, this time around we can say confirm, we could change it if we want to, but I'll just simply do this. Message will be triangulate now. In other words, we're going to let the computer ask, would you like for us to triangulate it for you, so you don't have to stop out of the script, go back, select it, triangulate it, then come back in. By the way, the triangulation thing ended up in here only because I always forget to do it, and you're supposed to do it, so this is just for me and showing you guys how to go about doing it. So now we're coming back down. Everything else there is good. So again, we can simply come in here with another if statement. This time we can say if $result is equal to yes, meaning, yep, I sure do want to triangulate this thing. Then, again, I'm going to come in here and put some blocking braces. All right, so then what we're going to do is the following. Poly, perform, action. And we're going to perform poly, triangulate, F0. And I'll show you in a minute where you can go about getting this from. Change selection mode dash object, and then finally select dash R $object selected sub-0. Here's the deal. What's going to happen is this guy right here is actually going to cause your selected object, since we didn't specify a name at the end, it's going to cause your selected object to enter into component mode, select all of the faces, triangulate it, and it's done. Then what we're going to do is we're going to tell it to change our selection mode back over into object. Remember how when we did triangulate earlier, it left us in a faces mode?
Right.
Well, I don't want it to do that. I want it to go ahead and kick us back into object mode. I hate having to go back in there and change that back. So we're going to make it go back to object mode, and then since we had all of the polygon faces selected, what I'm going to do is tell it to make sure that we reselect this object. So I'm doing a simple select, replace what is selected with whatever is in $object selected sub-0. And the reason sub-0 is because if we've made it to this point in the code, $object selected is an array. Arrays inside of Maya, they're 0 based, so that's the very first element. And if we made it to this point, that means there's only one thing selected, so that one thing's name would be in sub-0.
Right, if you had only one object selected, then it would be in the first element, which of course starts at 0.
You got it. So far, does that pretty much make sense?
Looks good.
All right, if just to point this out, people are going, well, how did you come up with all that stuff? You know, it's really easy. You just simply come over here and create another polygon cube. Let's take that guy, let's move him on over, and I'm just going to hit R and scale him on up just so that you can see this. Notice how as I'm doing things, I'm getting answers over here. In other words, things are being recorded to my history pane in the script editor. With this guy selected, I can come up here to polygons and simply come down to triangulate. And then once I've done that, you'll start getting information inside here as to what exactly is going on. And if you want even more information, this is really cool. I can go ahead and hit Z to go ahead and back out of that. I can come up here to script, echo all commands. This is going to give you a whole lot more information. And then simply come up, polygons, and again, triangulate. And now I've gotten a lot more information out of everything. And look what happens. Basically, the menu update, you saw the menu at the top. I clicked the button triangulate, and this is what got called. Poly perform action, poly triangulate, F0. And this automatically launched highlight the cube, go into this selection mode, grab all of the faces, triangulate them. Okay? So what we've done is basically let the script editor tell us what it is we need to do.
It can be very, very useful if you decide to get into scripting and want to figure out how you do various things.
Let me tell you what, very useful. So let's go ahead and come back up here to script, and we'll just turn off echo all commands, and just to keep things nice and simple, we'll say clear all. Now we'll come back over into object mode because, again, remember, it's leaving us in a component mode, which is why we're battling against that over inside our own little program. Now we'll just simply delete that, Alt middle click, Alt left and middle, just to kind of move over. There you go, Alt tab back over. So now you see where I get this guy from, and then all I did was change my mode back over to object, and then reselected my object just in case it was deselected for whatever reason. He's now triangulated.
So you want to make it look like the script didn't do any changes except actually triangulate.
You got it. So at this point, that's it. Let's go ahead and do the closing for my if up there. I'm surprised I didn't actually do that already. There we go. All right, so if the result was no, then we're simply going to say, well, do you want us to triangulate it for us? If they say yes, do this. If they don't, we're just going to simply continue on. We could ask you or ask the user at this point, would you like to just exit out of the program? But, you know, you can add that stuff. At this point, all is good. So now what we need to do is we need to check to see we're getting real close to being ready to export. So we need to check to see if the set exists currently so that we can keep using it. So in other words, a minute ago, inside of Maya, remember where I went in there and I deleted the set out and said just to get everything nice and clean? We didn't have to do that. We could have just simply kept hitting export, export, export. Would have been no problem at all. But to do that, we need to first make sure the set doesn't exist so that we don't try to create another set with the exact same name, because that would get us in trouble. Make sense?
Makes sense, especially since you're probably going to be using this a lot over and over as you make changes to your mesh.
Absolutely. So let's just go ahead and come in here, jump down a little bit, move on over, throw some comments in here. Does the set exist? Question mark. And here we go. If, another if statement, not, accent mark, attribute exists. Hang on. I'm getting down a little bit too far. If, this is actually a little bit easier. Object, obj, exists, $mesh name. All right, so if obj exists is a command, object exists, and you simply feed it a name, and it'll tell you yes or no that object does or does not exist. And a set, of course, is an object, not one that you go out there and physically pick up and move around your scene, but it is indeed a node, so it's an object. All right, so now, so basically what we're going to say is if he exists, and at this point we could say, and just to show it to you, I'm thinking about something right now. Yeah, we'll just throw it in there. A quick confirm, dialog, and we could just simply say message is set exists. This will just show you that indeed it did catch it. Otherwise, now let's go ahead and come in here and create it. Watch how easy this is. I'm just going to jump on over and say $create set result equals, and I'm going to get results back from sets-name $mesh name accent mark. This line right here. Of course, I could put the word string over to the left of it, generally a good idea, but I'm just pointing out this line right here is directly copied from the script editor. All I did was made a set, saw how it made sets, copied the line, pasted right here. It's so easy, isn't it, Logan?
Sounds simple enough.
Okay, so just leave it like that so that you guys get the idea that copying and pasting from the script editor is a really good idea. All right, now, especially for learning. So now that we have created our set, now we need to make sure that those attributes exist, yes or no. Technically, we don't have to go about doing it like this for the simple fact that basically if the set does not exist and we have to create one, then we'll just turn right around and create the attributes. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Attributes exist inside that set, so if the set hadn't existed, those attributes wouldn't have had anywhere to exist either.
Exactly. But by doing it this way, it just affords me a second to show you guys how you can check if an attribute exists if you want to go about embellishing this code, making it a little bit better, making it a little bit more interesting. So we can just simply come over and say if not accent mark attribute exists. The attribute name is going to be scaled. And we have to tell it on what object does that exist. $mesh name. Accent mark end. Okay? So, this is going to return a yes or a no. So, if it does not exist, then what we need to do is simply create it. So, to create it, very simple to create attributes. Again, coming straight from the copying out of the history. Add adder dash long name is going to be scale. Its type is going to be a double attribute type, and its name, or excuse me, the object that this is going to be created on is going to be mesh name. Because remember, $mesh name contains, if we come all the way back up to here, $mesh name contains our static mesh's name, which was our set. Remember right here where we created sets.
Because, of course, it was the set itself that we put the name on, and whatever our set was named, that ended up being the name of the static mesh once it was in Unreal.
That's right. So, you know what, Logan? Let's go ahead. Now that they've seen how they can check to see if an attribute exists, just for efficiency, let's go ahead and come back up here now and clean this up a little bit. I like things that are nice and clean. So we'll go ahead and create the set. Go ahead and give a couple lines. We'll close this. I'll now delete this line. I'll grab this guy right here, Control X. I'll come up here, Control V, V, V. So we're going to add attribute for a scale, for package, for group. So we've got scale in there. We've got package. We've got group. And now what we're going to do is we're going to come in here. Data type is going to be string. String. And let's see, good. Anything else that we want in there? I think that's going to cover everything that we need to see or use as far as attributes. But what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and set custom attribute values. In other words, I want to go ahead and put my level in there. I want to go ahead and put, say a value of 16 in there. You get the idea. So to go ahead and, well, actually, we did put those up there. What is it that I'm looking to put in here?
So basically,
no, I'm getting ready to export here. For just a second, I went off into La La Land. But remember, the whole idea is to export this. Well, in other words, what we need to do now is use this information for exporting out. So here's what I'm getting at. Basically, coming on down. So after our else, you were saying basically, Logan?
Oh, no, I was just looking at something you already had. Let's see. Right, we're actually getting into where these values have already been entered. Of course, we initialized those values when we had them in text fields and the float field. So now we're going to go ahead and actually get to the point where we start using those.
That's right. We're going to put this information that we pulled out up here into these new attributes that we just created on the set. And we do that with a set adder command, which is for set attribute. And we're just going to simply say set adder. And I need to put this together because right now I'm just holding the name of my set in a string. So I'm going to say $mesh name plus dot package, close that off, and the type is a string, and the data is going to be whatever is stored in S package.
So you're saying if $my name held mycube, and what you would actually be doing is saying mycube.package equals whatever was typed in that field.
Yep. Yep. And whatever was typed into that field was stored in $S package. Again, right here. Create the variable string of type string $S package and put in it whatever we query out of T package, which is our text field. Okay. So that right now we're actually taking this value and putting it into this attribute, which let's say I'm using mycube, let's say, because that's what I've been doing over and over. It would be mycube.package. Does that make sense?
Exactly.
Okay. So we've got that one in there. Now we've got another one in there. Group needs to be handled a little bit differently. So we're going to say if there's anything at all put into S group. And Logan, while I'm typing this in, you want to go ahead and explain?
Okay, well, if in the case that you wanted to have no group, if you wanted to just send a mesh over but not set a group, you have to check whether or not you want to even set the attribute. Because if you do set the attribute, even if you set it to what looks like a blank field, you still end up with like changing the data it's expecting, and it starts filling in group names for you. So what we're doing here is just allowing you to skip the group if you wanted to.
So in other words, leave it blank, and you're going to have a static mesh appear in your static mesh browser that does not have a group that it's assigned to.
Right.
Okay. Yep. All right. So one last thing that we're almost, believe it or not, a couple of lines from being done with the entire thing, and that is we'll just come back up here and we'll grab set adder again, copy it, cruise all the way down, paste it, and this one's a little bit simpler. This is our final one, scale. And we don't have to specify the type in this case. It's just a number that we're just going to stick straight into it. So we can just come over here and say F scale like such. Dink. Okay. And once all that's done, guess what? Simply come over here, // and say export to Unreal Ed. And remember from the Maya basic workflow lesson, we said that in the command line you type uneditor and then type in mesh, because that's what we're exporting out, and we're going to type in the name of the object, okay, which in this case is going to be $mesh name. Remember, our static mesh is being stored in that. But I have to evaluate this as a command, so I'm going to say eval, and then this will be a string. Oops. And I'll concatenate $mesh name to the end of it. Dink, and there you go. So what's going to happen is uneditor space mesh space, and whatever the name of your static mesh will be appended to the end of that. That will be executed or evaluated, which will actually cause the whole thing to occur, the actual exporting.
So basically what we needed to do is come up with something that would be the equivalent of typing uneditor mesh and then whatever you typed in that field. So what we had to do is we had to assemble that into something that eval would understand so it could go and actually run that.
You got it. Now, the odds of me having typed all of this without one problem while jabbering here would be pretty amazing. Did you see any problems as I was typing, Logan?
No, you caught the one closing bracket off of the if statement, so okay. I think it should be good to go.
All right, so let's go ahead and do a Control-A, Control-C to copy it. Remember, Control-A selects all. Alt-tab over to the Maya PLE, Control-A, Control-V, and then I'm going to hit the Enter key again on the far right side, and aha! $object selected is an undeclared variable. So we have an issue somewhere. So we can go ahead and tab back over here. So $object selected undeclared variable.
Let's see.
OBJ selected. It looks like I got a little carried away and typed out the whole word object, and we didn't want the whole word object. We just wanted OBJ.
So we just took that down to OBJ. That should work.
That's right. Now, where did we put that at? And looking.
So where you said select, where you're selecting the object.
OBJ over. There we go. Control-A, Control-C. Alt-tab back over. Control-A, Control-V. Execute. Amazing. Only one error. 53 minutes of talking at this point, and only one. I can't believe it.
I'm impressed.
Yeah. You know what? So am I. I'm never impressed. I'm just kidding. All right. So static mesh name. What do we want to call this guy? MyCube sounds good. MyCube test. Let's just do something that's totally out of what we've done before, so that see a completely new name over there. And package, my level, good. We'll leave group blank. Export set to 16. Well, let's not even select it. Let's test everything we've got going on. So I'll come over here. I'll hit export. error in selection. Hey, hey, hey. Now let's see, what if I had perhaps two objects selected? So I'll go ahead, let's scale this guy up, hit W, and let's just move him over here. So two things are now selected. Export, error in selection. All right, so far our testing is looking pretty good. Let's just select the object right here. Let's tell it that we want to export it. Did you triangulate? This guy's already been triangulated, unfortunately, though we can test that in just a minute if we want to. Let's go ahead and tell it that, yes, we have. Whoa. My cube test. There's the texture sign.
Wow.
Does that make life a little easier?
Most definitely.
Let's just see how much easier life really is made by coming back over here into the MyPLE again. And let's just take this guy, delete him. Let's come up here and create another, let's just do another polygon cube. And again, let's go ahead and close let's just close our script editor for now. With the cube selected, I'm going to come down to my input section and set this up to a value of 16, like such. All right, now with that, next thing I want to do, let's see, let's go ahead and, trying to think here, let's see, what do we want to do? I'm going to go ahead, I'm just keeping things clean. We don't have to do this, but actually it's already been done for us. Well, yeah, because we deleted the one thing. Never mind, I'm in La La Land again. All right, so got this guy selected. What else do we want to do quickly here? We don't want to triangulate him this time. We want to...
We can take them right here from this point. Of course, we don't have any
texture
information set up on it.
So let's just, simple cube. Let's just see what this does for us. My cube test 2 into my level, scale of 16, export, error in selection. Why? Anybody that's confused, right now I opened up my input node. I actually have two nodes selected. My transform node up here, my input node down here. If you come up to Window, come down to Hypergraph, and in the hypergraph, with the object selected, it looks like there's only one thing, but if I go to my dependency graph, you can see I have two nodes selected. So it did a really good job. We need to make sure just one thing. So we'll go ahead and come in here. We just have our object selected. We'll export. Did you triangulate? No. Triangulate now? Sure. Error can't be found. Polyperform. Look at that. A-C-A-T-I-O-N. Man, if I could just spell, life would be so good. Actually, we don't want to come back over here. We want to go all the way over to this. Go back up to the triangulate. And A-C-T-I-O-N. Control-A, Control-C. That was lots of fun. Come back over to the MyPLE again. Open up our script editor. And Control-A, Control-V. Execute. Simple enough. All right, let's go ahead and just close that down for now. We called this guy, what was it again a second ago?
My cube test.
My cube test.
I'd say 2.
2. My level 16. Export, triangulate. Or did you triangulate? Nah, I forgot. Triangulate now. Yep, look at that. But now here we are, change selection mode. S-E-L-E-C-T-I-O-N-C-H-A-N-G-E. Let's see where I've got. This is called troubleshooting. Guess what? When you script, when you program, you always end up troubleshooting. And like I said, just to have one error in this whole thing with all the yabbering after 53 minutes would have simply been amazing. All right, so looking, see, change selection, S-E-L-E-C-T-I-O-N mode. All right, let's do this real quick. That's peculiar. It looks good.
Let's go switch something from component to...
So let's just simply go over here. We'll open this up. I'm going to turn on echo all commands and switch over into object mode. Change select mode. See, there I go, getting carried away again. But notice how this is a great example, though. That's why I love leaving these mistakes in these videos, because they really point out what it's like to be working for real doing this kind of stuff. So instead of selection, you know, it needs to be just simply select mode. So I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to come back over here and hit Z a couple of times to undo those operations so that it's not triangulated. Alt-tab back over into the code, and then come back to that area again. Select mode. Select mode. There we go. All right. Again, here we go. Let's see if I can bomb one more time. Actually, we're in the right area there. Highlight, paste. There we go. Code's running. Go ahead and close that guy. He has selected. I'll tell it to export. Did you triangulate? No. Triangulate now? Yes. Boom. All the way over. Of course, I haven't, like Logan said a second ago, I haven't set up textures and all that good stuff. But look what it's called. Change me. I forgot to change the name of it, didn't I?
Yep.
Whoops, got carried away. But, hey, it proved it worked, so that's good enough. And, of course, since I didn't put any textures on it, then it's going to come and show the standard green little bubbly default texture type. But it did indeed make it over in here. And if we go ahead and Alt-Tab back over into the MyPLE, see there, by the way, mesh name, not been changed, just pointing that out. It has been triangulated. We are indeed back into object mode automatically. And if we were to come up into Window, come down to Outliner and open it up, check it out. We now have a set called Change Me that has our object up inside it. And with that set selected, I go ahead and hit Control A up under Extra Attributes. There's Scale, there's Package, there's Group.
So that does quite an impressive job of streamlining the workflow there.
It does. This may seem like a bit of a jumbled up or confusing lesson to those that are completely new to the concept of scripting or programming in general, but I promise you this is actually a very valuable lesson. It's amazing the power that you have inside of Unreal and inside of Maya when you start understanding logic that's required for coding, be it scripting or pure programming or whatever it may be. It gives you a lot of flexibility. In this case, we ran into a situation where we felt that it was a little bit too involved to get some geometry, export it from Maya, and import it over into Unreal Ed because of all the work that you had to do. And we just wanted a simple window to make it nice, fast, and easy for us, and that is what we've designed. A very easy UI with just a handful of controls, a simple export button. Do your modeling, assign your textures. When you're done, fill out, fill out, fill out, hit export. Now the last thing I'll show. Let's go ahead and I'm going to middle click on this old one right here, drag it over to the old garbage can so that it's gone. I will go ahead and open up my script editor again. I'll go ahead and paste the new stuff in. So there's all the code. I'll do a simple Control A to select all of it, middle click, drag, drop to my shelf. There it is. If you want to go in, change the text or put text under it or change the icon, simply come over here to the black drop down triangle and then come down to the shelf editor, and from inside the shelf editor this is where you can do all of your changing, etc., etc. Okay? Logan, pretty simple?
Looks good. Definitely go through, see if you can figure it out, because if you get good at designing these little UIs, you can impress all your mesh building friends out there.
Absolutely. And again, this is a really good utility to hang on to and to utilize while you are working with the Maya PLE.
I mean, yeah, basically you could just drop down a cube and then entering only the values you wanted, have it show up in Unreal. That easy.
And not even just drop down a cube or model an object, some sort of static mesh, a light, a bridge, or whatever. Press a button, you're all done with it.
Right. Again, you can spend all your time modeling and then only set the settings you need.
And it seems like just so much stuff, but if you watch this video a couple of times, it's not really that bad. And hopefully my descriptions were good enough for you guys to just kind of get you up and going with things. That's the whole general idea. So, Logan, I think, or do you feel like we've covered everything we need to?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a working tool at this point, which is very cool.
Okay, so with that being the case, this is going to conclude this lesson right here. I'd like to thank all of you that watched all of it for bearing with me as I did lots of typing, lots of talking, and then lots of troubleshooting, fixing my typos that I'm so good at creating. So that's going to wrap up this lesson. Thanks a lot, guys.